Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. How's it going?
I started
Do
like
you
this.
want me to look in the camera?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. What made you decide to audition for The Miracle Worker?
Okay, so for the past 2 years, I've been involved in Drama Society, and this is my last semester, so I tried out for my last show, and also The Miracle Worker is a show that I know we've been wanting to put on for, I think, was it the past year or so? Like our director had mentioned it, and it's very exciting. It's a very exciting show, so I had to give it a shot.
How did you feel when you found out you received the role of Helen Keller?
I was very happy because that's the role that I wanted because it's such an important role. It's not only just, portraying probably one of the most important female figures in all of history, but, it's one of the most impactful roles in all of theater, in my opinion.
What has it been like playing the role of a character with multiple disabilities?
Okay, I have to say it has been difficult so far, and you don't really realize somebody who, like myself, who wasn't born or hasn't encountered a disability, like myself, it has been a challenge. You really have to you have to change your way of, I guess, like, doing things, things that you do every day. Like, for example, like on the stage, when I'm moving from place to place, I have to really do my best to not focus or to not, see, so to speak. So I really just have to adapt myself.
What have been your biggest challenges while playing the role of Helen Keller?
All right, so definitely, the adaptation. The abilities that I have, I think we take them for granted to a certain extent. And, removing those from myself, even if it's just, like the 3 hours on Tuesday, Thursday evenings when we rehearse or on the weekends, I think that has been the biggest challenge, is just, transforming myself into this character and also portraying it as truthfully and as accurately as I can, and respectfully as well. I think, being respectful, with a character like this, can be a challenge. You want to really portray it through and through.
Awesome. What strategies, if any, have helped you get into character?
Okay, definitely. I've watched the 1962 version of the movie with Anne Bancroft. I've been watching that. Really just reading over the stage directions, familiarizing myself. Something that was suggested to me that I do during rehearsals is I'll close my eyes. I can't do that during the play, but that just helps put me into the mindset or the setting that I can't really, I can't see. And also the hearing, like the ability to not react to like the sounds around me. I've also practiced with that. That's been a big practice. And I'm sorry if I'm a little long-winded. A few years ago I used to work with children who had varying disabilities, intellectual and physical, and I worked with a child who was almost, they were considered legally blind, that they could see to an extent. So I'm thinking back to strategies that this child used, to familiarize himself with his everyday world. And, I just think back to that, to go with the authenticity of the part. So I think back to experiences that I've had, working with people with disabilities.
And a follow-up question, do you restrict your sight or hearing during rehearsal in any way?
I do, as I mentioned, to an extent. Like, I'll close my eyes, and restricting the hearing, it's a little tricky because part of me needs to be listening for my cues, but at the same time, not listening. It's mainly the sight that I've been doing my very best to obstruct.
After studying this role, how do you think Helen Keller felt before she learned how to communicate?
I would say extremely frustrated by everybody around her. Most likely just treating her as if she didn't understand things. Pretty much, in the play, we learned that she essentially got whatever she wanted, but her family, they didn't respect her as a person. They didn't like see her as a human. They saw her almost like, they were, just because she, didn't have her sight or her hearing, they removed humanity from her. And I think, even though I'm portraying her as a little girl right now, I think that she was extremely frustrated. Extremely.
Definitely. How did the lack of compassion towards Helen's disabilities from the other characters make you feel?
Well, it makes me feel angry, which is, that goes with the feeling of frustration, and I do my very best to, I guess, harbor that while I'm portraying the role. Definitely, disappointment as well. But, and also, you think about at that time, medical science had only come so far, so most likely, her family members, they probably didn't understand, how that could ever happen to her either. So I try to give people the benefit of the doubt, but, they should know better to an extent.
Absolutely.
The family members.
Absolutely. Has this role made you more aware of the struggles that people with disabilities may face in society today?
Absolutely, it definitely, it goes with, education that I've gotten. I've taken recreation courses about inclusion. I've worked with, children, and adults with disabilities, both physical and intellectual. But, now putting myself in the place of a person who may have, who did, historically have a disability, it really just raises my awareness. And, I consider myself an advocate for multiple groups, and definitely people who have disabilities is one of them. Something I learned about is person-first language. Always put, the person before the disability. It's Helen Keller who had a disability, not the disabled girl. It's always the person first. So I think this just really adds to, my powerful feelings on the subject.
I love the way you worded that.
Thank you.
What was the most meaningful or rewarding part of playing this role to you?
Right, so I know we're still practicing, and we're still going through, we're still working it out. That's a very good question because there's so many things. I'm gonna have to just take a second to think about that one. The most rewarding thing. I think the most rewarding thing is to be able to portray a role like this as best as I can. Like to know that I achieved it and I told the stories accurately and as powerfully as I could, because it is a very powerful show. It's supposed to move you. It's supposed to create awareness. It's supposed to make you, I think about, wow, I had no idea that people who have disabilities, the struggles that they've gone through. I think that, I think we live in a culture that's fairly ableist. I don't mean to get a little political, but we do live in a culture that's ableist, that they just focus on people who have ability, and when they see people who have disabilities, they just focus on the disability. So I think the most rewarding thing is, the accuracy, the awareness, and the ability to create, that catharsis in the audience to get people to feel and understand the story.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.